Bowman here at BWOne.com.
And Thundy from BWORK.com.
And this is the Tech Shoutout. And in this episode of Tech Shoutout, you've heard us previously talk about the top 5 fails in technology of the last decade. This time, we're going to talk about the top 5 wins of technology in this decade.
Yeah, and starting off our list, at number 5 is your favorite browser, at least my favorite browser, Firefox.
Firefox, I mean, it just honestly changed the way you browse the web. Mm-hmm. It made a browser a utility to expand the web into way farther than what you could have done in previous browsers. It made it a great experience to use the internet. And I think Firefox has done a great job in also allowing other browsers to show up as well. Allowing, there's Maxons, there's Opera, which not a lot of people use. But
pretty fast.
Yeah, it's pretty fast though. And then you also have Google Chrome that's out now, which I've actually been using a lot of now. That's the beta with the Chrome extensions. But Firefox started all that. Firefox made it popular. The extensions and the add-ons to just make it a better browser experience. You could have a basic browser which was nice and fast and simplistic to use, but the add-ons and extensions just created a much richer internet experience.
Yeah, I mean, Firefox was what pioneered what Chrome OS is trying to do. Is basically it brought the desktop experience to a browser, literally.
Exactly.
I mean, Firefox is still doing that now. I mean, with all the extensions you can download and things like that.
I feel like they pioneered Web 2.0. Like they helped that movement of Web 2.0.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, because just if you think of the extension as little web apps, or literally that's what it was, and it also showed that another third party could come into the browsing business and be a big player.
Yeah, it didn't fall out to the Netscapes of the world.
Yeah, exactly.
And it also proved something else, that I thought was really big. It actually proved that you can make big companies change. They forced Microsoft to change their browser.
Yes.
Think about how big that is. Think about how small the Firefox development team is comparative to the thousands upon thousands across the world that develop for Microsoft. And their company, maybe 500 at best. Yeah. And even before that, probably smaller. And they made that company change.
Yes, definitely. I mean, it's astonishing, and it's helped all of us. I mean, as long as we get a better browsing experience, we get what we're looking for online. And that's good with me. But that's a number 5 tech. Big mover in
big
this.
Mover, big tech win, big tech. It's not a fail, but it's a win. But speaking of, we're talking about getting where you need to get to on the internet. Obviously, number 4 on our list has to be Google.
Yeah.
Everything that Google has done in the last 10 years.
Definitely use Google. Why? Before we even go to what Google has done, Google is literally now a word.
Yeah.
When you move from being a company to a word in vocabulary, you mean, just Google that. Just search this. Just do that. That basically moves you from being a company, a technology, to being common knowledge. And that's very big. It's massive.
That's just massive. And you got to think about just all the services that they offer. Not only the search is their core thing, but then they went from adding search to adding email. Think about how big Gmail has become. Then you got the Google Docs, you got Google Reader, you've got Google, you had Google Video, but now that's YouTube now, and they have so many other services that are available on there that they've either bought or brought in or they've created themselves, that they have become the pioneers of sort of, just sort of the whole, I would say, desktop on the web almost, really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Google is what Microsoft used to be, especially in the expansion phase. Basically, Microsoft was the expansion of the 80s and 90s. Microsoft grew in that way, and Google took it online in that fashion. And that is what's, we've seen with the company. Not just that they grew and expanded, but also brought in new things, new technology. We have, Chrome OS, we have Android, like you said, we have YouTube, we have Google Docs, we have Gmail, which I think was only maybe second to Yahoo, probably. That's pretty much it. Yeah. But it
beat out Hotmail, which was like it was battling Google for number 1. Battling with Yahoo for number 1 and number 2 as far as email was concerned.
Exactly. And so it's as a company, and as a company that affects your life, it's very integrated and very important, and that's why it takes our number 4 spot.
They made it very easy to communicate through the web. They've allowed us to collaborate in a much different way than what we're used to 10 years ago, and Google's made that very easy, and that's why they're number 4 definitely on our list.
Yes.
Number 3 of tech wins this decade would be, drum roll,
the Wii.
Before you get like these fanboys start getting all talking about it, why did we choose a Nintendo Wii? We chose a Nintendo Wii simply because it changed gaming.
Very, very, very true.
And some of you might argue, oh, well, that was the PlayStation 2. No, PlayStation 2 was successful in sort of a last medium of the way of traditional gaming. They were very successful at that. But when it came down to it, we changed the way we interact with games, because look at the way with motion controls now, that's even ported off itself into the iPhone and all these other devices where motion controls and moving things around and being interactive is now what's become the big thing to have on your gaming systems.
Oh, definitely true. I think what the Wii did, it basically changed gaming in 2 fronts. It brought a whole new idea, perspective of how to create and play games, and then the most important thing, it brought in new class of gamers. I mean, gaming was considered almost like wrestling.
Yeah.
It was considered, this is the market, this is the niche. It only grows so much every year as more people join into that age group and that niche.
Well, as a wrestling fan, as I am a big wrestling fan, what I think the difference between wrestling and the Wii, what happened basically with wrestling is they had the big surge in the 90s, what they call the Attitude Era, and it expanded out. But the problem is they never kept up. They didn't have the core players, the core talents that they still needed in wrestling to keep it alive as that. So it shrunk back down again. But there's still a large amount of wrestling fans that are also casual wrestling fans too, that are in that mix. What the Wii had the opportunity to do, and that's why it's still running as strong as it has now, it's simply because Nintendo has the first-party titles to back it up.
Exactly.
And they're the name. They have the Mario, the Zeldas, and the Metroids that are always going to sell for them. And having an inexpensive console with motion controls, they're in charge of the development. And sacrificing HD for this generation was probably practically a pretty smart move.
Yeah, definitely was, and it helped them push the medium. Yes, when you look at pretty graphics, you will definitely veer away. It's the reason why Avatar the movie has a simple story, because they want you to focus on the graphics.
Yeah.
So if Nintendo had gone that route and still had the motion control, most people wouldn't pay much attention to the fact that yes, what they do in control-wise is totally different and totally innovative.
So we're so used to eye candy and pumping the graphics. And I remember I was at E306. I was one of the first ones to play with the Wii, and then I had my friend over there, and he was just like, the graphics just don't look good. The graphics. He literally complained about on the line, I'm calling you out, Ryan. I ain't gonna put your last name out. I'm calling you out there, Ryan, for this. Yeah. And then he obviously dealing with fanboys in there, land-based him basically. I could stick up for him. I was like, dude, I knew better to get into that fight. Yeah. He was just complaining about the graphics so much, and it simply said to him, what does the graphics matter if the gameplay is not there?
Exactly.
And Nintendo Wii answered that question. Now, there's a lot of crap games for Nintendo Wii.
Oh,
we'll get into that. There's a Cold Stone ice cream game.
We'll get to it, but that's the reason why the Wii is our number 3, tech advancement of the decade. Our number 2 tech advancement of the decade is just not one company, but actually
one service. It's one
movement.
It's one movement, and that's social media. That means your MySpaces, your Facebooks, your Twitters, your YouTubes,
LinkedIn.
Your LinkedIn's, your Ustreams, your Blog TV, whatever, however you social interaction on the internet it's gone past the email and instant messenger, which was the thing of the 90s, into now profiles online, pictures, just social interactions where it leads to you socially group in one place that leads to you actually meeting in the physical world these days. And social media has just grown up into that, especially sort of the way it started off. You got to think about this, where MySpace, how people kind of said they started it. MySpace just really truthfully got it right.
Right. Yes.
Because beforehand you had your Friendster. Was it the Friendsters?
Friendster,
the Black Planets, the Megentes, the I think they had an Asian planet too.
Yeah, there's an Asian planet too.
There was college club, high school club. It was all these different groups. They were all segregated and specialized in something specific.
Yeah.
MySpace simply said, "You're a space. This is my space." You can, and opened up the HTML for everybody to edit the things the way they wanted it to.
Exactly.
And it was for everybody.
Yeah.
And I remember my friend Petra, she was just like, "You should get out of MySpace." And I was like, "What's this MySpace thing?" I'm not paying attention to it because by then, and I'm completely oblivious to the social. I was like, social media didn't matter to me at that time because it wasn't big at that time. And I was like, "Nah, I got the black and white goofy pages, this whatever." And if I wanted to do that, I just build my own website, right? Yeah. And I thought about it. And then when I finally got on and kind of see the way the interaction was, see how people are so engaged with it, it just made it just started. It was a catalyst that just took everything else off.
Oh yeah, definitely did. I mean, MySpace, like you say, MySpace set the foundation right. Basically, put everything all together and say, like you said, this is your space. Then Facebook came through and just revolutionized the medium and pushed on a different level where it wasn't just about your space, it was about how you actually socially interact.
Social utility, that's what Facebook called it a lot of times.
Exactly.
It became a tool to socialize with people.
And you know, Facebook did that, and then over the last year and a half, Twitter came into the whole game, and we all kind of poo-pooed Twitter here and there, and even I myself personally didn't get on Twitter till very late, but Twitter basically condensed things in this microminds and says, yes, you know what, you have your MySpace, you have your Facebook, the big players, but we're still part of that social media network, but we're there for this amount. And,
Twitter learned how to take text messaging and just say, all right, you really have this much to say something profound in that limited amount of space, and that's exactly what they've done, and a great job of doing it. And obviously, you have to throw YouTube in here simply because look where you're on right now. Look where you're watching this video on YouTube. Mm-hmm. YouTube has allowed us to just basically visually give you express opinion, express our own feelings, express who we are visually. It's as easy as possible. It's just a simple upload, and that's it. You're on your net. You can syndicate it to what everybody wants to. Give it to you free. They made it even better, with especially I think not only just for user-generated content, but just allowing partners in there as well. Has expanded it now to allow people like BWOne.com and BorderWork.com to get in there and earn some money, and earning that money by generating hits has increased the quality of the videos.
Exactly. It's as a whole, social media is a great thing, because in the 90s and even almost the beginning of this decade, everyone was saying technology was growing us apart and making us very antisocial and not. Maybe to some ways it still is, because a lot of people still dwell on their PCs to a certain degree. But social media had closed that gap down by saying, what, yes, you're on an online space, but what, you're going to create this space that you can involve people in there, share and mix and match and do all these things that you do normally, because when you meet those people normally, it still will be the same thing.
Yeah, it's still the same thing. It's allowed you to set up a group, to start these things, to share all these things, and then when you're out there actually doing it, it's enhanced the experience of when you're grouping with people together. Instead of, beforehand, I think we had one level of interaction, obviously, before all this. I think social media has allowed you not only to have a different interaction online, but now that online experience has enhanced the offline experience.
Yeah, that's very true. And so that's why social media is our number 2 pick.
And number 1, this is kind of obvious. It's
painful to me.
It's not painful to me because at the end of the day, a lot of other services, a lot of other devices wouldn't be around if it wasn't for the fact of this.
Yes.
And that is the iPod / iPhone.
Yeah.
I mean, simply put, it revolutionized music. It took it to a totally different level. It allowed us to interact with media the way we wanted to in a portable experience. Let us take it with us on the go wherever we wanted to. It gave us that on-demand. That on-demand experience which we did not experience before. Outside of, we can get a few tracks on a CD we can listen to, but we were limited to that CD, limited to what the radio kept playing to us. But now we were in control. We had the play, pause, rewind, and fast forward button in our hands, and we control that.
I think it did that greatly, and I think well, also it was with the combination of a service, and I think that's one thing Apple did well with the iPod was the release of iTunes together with it, to say you don't have to, especially for the basic consumer now, people like us, people like you, or tech savvy, you can find your music, you can do your things your way. But the basic consumer wants to have a package, wants to have something that you can easily say.
They want it already done for them already.
Yes, exactly. Which did say, you know what, we want to have it there. We want to be able to say, oh, it's right there. We can click and add, and that is what the iPod or the iPod platform, basically did for it. And it helped show other companies that you can do this and also do it better. Mm-hmm. But it started a new phase in the music industry, changed the music industry. I mean, it helped drop prices.
Drop prices, and somewhat saved it too.
Yes, definitely.
Somewhat saved it too, and it's just great now that you have all these great devices out here now, and this great new way to interact with your media than you ever had before. And the iPod and the iPhone, wherever you want to group it in together, that particular piece of technology definitely changed. I think the biggest change or tech advancement of this decade.
Yes, definitely so. And I totally agree with that. And I say, it's one of those things that I'm glad Apple did it. In the long run, even though everyone has a different views about the company or whatever. But it was good. It's always good to have companies innovate and change the game, because what we still would be stuck buying CDs at $24 a pop. And that just wasn't going to last. So
it was gonna fly, and the iPod changed that. And we've all owned iPods before. We might own different players now, but it started off with that.
Exactly.
And we consider that the biggest tech innovation of this decade.
Yeah.
So, what's your response to this? You've heard our list. What's your list? I obviously post a text response here. You can post it at BWOne.com or BWORK.com. You can post a video response as well. I'd like to hear what you think about the whole thing. What you think of the big 5 advancements in technology this decade. So this is Bowman from BWOne.com.
And Thunder from BWORK.com.
Reminding you to follow us on Twitter at BWOne.com.
Or BWORK.com.
Subscribe to our YouTube pages. It's easy. You just click that yellow button right there. It says subscribe, and you get all the videos. You can also check out our past videos as well, and get all the news and reviews and tech views that we give to you as best as possible, and unbiased and unopinionated. We just give you straight up our opinion, and you can check all those videos out just by clicking the subscribe button. Also, be sure to follow our RSS feeds. And always remember to live your tech world in high definition.
And always enjoy your entertainment.